Day 286, Maccabean Revolt, 1 Maccabees 5, Sirach 13 through 15, Proverbs 22 verses 13 through 16. Let's begin. 1 Maccabees 5. And it happened that, when the surrounding nations heard that the altar and the sanctuary had been rebuilt as before, they were very angry. And they intended to destroy the people of Jacob that were among them, and they began to kill some of the people, and to persecute them. Then Judas defeated in warfare the sons of Esau in Idumaea, and those who were in Acrabatim, because they besieged the Israelites, and he struck them with a great scourging. And he remembered the malice of the sons of Bean, who were a snare and a scandal to the people, lying in ambush for them in the way. And they were trapped by him in the towers, and he took up a position near them, and he anathematized them, and he burned their towers with fire, along with all who were in them. Then he crossed over to the sons of Ammon, and he found a strong hand, and an abundant people, and Timothy was their commander. And he engaged in many battles with them, and they were crushed in their sight, and he struck them down. And he seized the city of Jazer, and her sister cities, and he returned to Judea. And the Gentiles, who were in Gilead, gathered together against the Israelites, who were within their borders, to take them away, and so they fled into the fortress of Dithema. And they sent letters to Judas and his brothers, saying, The Gentiles all around have been gathering together against us to carry us away. And they are preparing to come and occupy the fortress into which we have fled. And Timothy is the commander of their army. Now, therefore, come and rescue us from their hands, for many of us have fallen. And all our brothers, who were in the places of Tob, have been put to death. And they have led away as captives their wives, and their children, and their spoils. And they have slain nearly 1,000 men in that place. And while they were still reading these letters, behold, there arrived from Galilee other messengers, with torn garments, who announced according to these words, saying that those of Ptolemy and Tyre and Sidon have assembled against them, and all of Galilee has been filled with foreigners, in order to consume us. So then, when Judas and the people heard these words, a great assembly came together, to consider what they should do for their brothers who were in trouble and were being assailed by them. And Judas said to Simon his brother, Choose men for yourself, and go, and free your brothers in Galilee. But I and my brother Jonathan will go into the country of Gilead. And he left behind Joseph, son of Zechariah, and Azariah, as commanders of the people, with the remainder of the army, in Judea, to guard it. And he instructed them, saying, Take charge of this people, but do not go to war against the Gentiles, until we return. Now 3,000 men were divided to Simon, to go into Galilee, but 8,000 were divided to Judas, to go into the land of Gilead. And Simon went into Galilee, and he engaged in many battles with the Gentiles, and the Gentiles were crushed before his face, and he pursued them even to the gates of Ptolemy. And there fell of the Gentiles nearly 3,000 men, and he took their spoils. And he took with him those who were in Galilee and in Arbada, with their wives and children, and all that was theirs, and he led them into Judea with great rejoicing. And Judas Maccabeus, and Jonathan his brother, crossed over the Jordan, and they traveled 3 days' journey through the desert. And the Nabateans met them, and they accepted them peacefully. And they described to them all that had happened to their brothers in the land of Gilead. And that many of them were trapped in Bozrah, and Boza, and Alma, and in Shazpho, and Maked, and Karnim. All these are large and fortified cities. Moreover, they were held in their grasp in the other cities of Gilead, and they had arranged to move their army, on the next day, to these cities, and to seize them, and to destroy them all in one day. Then Judas and his army unexpectedly turned their path into the desert, to Bozer, and they occupied the city. And he killed every male by the edge of the sword, and took all their spoils, and burned it with fire. And they arose from there by night, and they went forth all the way to the fortress. And it happened that, at first light, when they lifted up their eyes, behold, there was a multitude of people, which could not be numbered, bringing ladders and machines, in order to seize the fortress, and to assault them. And Judas saw that the fight had begun, and the cry of the battle went up to heaven like a trumpet, and a great cry went out of the city. And he said to his army, "Fight today on behalf of your brothers." And he came, with 3 companies behind them, and they sounded the trumpets, and they cried out in prayer. And the camp of Timothy knew that it was Maccabees, and they took flight before his face. And they struck them with a great scourging. And there fell from them in that day nearly 8,000 men. And Judas diverted to Mizpah, and he fought and seized it. And he killed all of its males, and he took its spoils, and he burned it with fire. From there, he continued on, and he seized Chazpho, and Maked, and Bozer, and the rest of the cities of Gilead. But after these events, Timothy gathered together another army, and he positioned his camp opposite Rabhan, across the torrent. And Judas sent men to catch sight of the army. And they reported back to him, saying, "All the nations that surround us have assembled before him, with an exceedingly great army. And they have brought the Arabians as auxiliaries to them, and they have set up camp across the torrent, in preparation to come against you in battle." And Judas went to meet them. And Timothy said to the leaders of his army, "When Judas and his army approach, close to the torrent of water, if he crosses over to us first, we will not be able to withstand him. For he will be able to prevail against us. If truly he is afraid to cross over, and so he sets up camp across the river, we will cross over to them, and we will prevail against him." But when Judas approached, close to the torrent of water, he stationed the scribes of the people near the torrent, and he commanded them, saying, "Permit no man to stay behind, but let all come into the battle." And he crossed over to them first, and all the people after him. And all the Gentiles were crushed before their face, and they threw away their weapons, and they fled to the temple that was in Carnaim. And he occupied that city, and he burned the temple with fire, along with all the things that were in it. And Carnaim was subdued, and it could not stand against the face of Judas. And Judas gathered together all the Israelites who were in the land of Gilead, from the least even to the greatest, with their wives and children, and a very great army, to come into the land of Judah. And they came as far as Ephron. And this was a great city, positioned at the entrance, strongly fortified, and there was no way to go around it on the right or on the left, but the path was through the midst of it. And those who were in the city shut themselves in, and barricaded the gates with stones. And so Judas sent to them with words of peace, saying, "Let us cross through your land, to go into our own land, and no one will harm you, we will only cross through on foot." But they were not willing to open to them. Then Judas instructed a proclamation to be made in the camp, that they would engage them, each one from the place where he was. And the men of the army drew close. And he assaulted that city all day and all night. And the city was delivered into his hand. And they destroyed every male with the edge of the sword, and he eradicated the city, and he took its spoils, and he crossed through the entire city, over those who had been slain. Then they crossed over the Jordan to the great plain that is opposite the face of Beth-shan. And Judas was gathering the stragglers and exhorting the people, throughout the entire way, until they came into the land of Judah. And they ascended to Mount Zion with joy and gladness, and they offered holocausts, because not one of them had fallen, until they had returned in peace. Now in the days that Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Gilead, and Simon his brother was in Galilee against the face of Ptolemy, Joseph, the son of Zachariah, and Azariah, the leader of the army, heard good things about the battles that were fought. And he said, "Let us also make a name for ourselves, and let us go to fight against the Gentiles that are all around us." And he gave orders to those who were in his army, and they went out towards Jamnia. And Gorgias and his men exited the city, to meet them in the fight. And Joseph and Azariah were forced to flee, even to the borders of Judea. And there fell on that day, from the people of Israel, up to 2,000 men, and it was a great defeat for the people. For they did not listen to Judas and his brothers, supposing that they should act boldly. But these were not of the offspring of those men by whom salvation was brought to Israel. And the men of Judah were magnified greatly in the sight of all Israel and of all the nations where their name was heard. And the people gathered to them with favorable acclamations. And so Judas and his brothers went out and assailed the sons of Esau, in the land that is toward the south, and he struck Hebron and her sister cities, and he burned its walls and the towers all around it with fire. And he moved his camp to go into the land of the foreigners, and he traveled through Samaria. In that day, some priests fell in battle. Since they desired to act boldly, they went out, without counsel, into the battle. And Judas turned aside to Azotus, into the land of the foreigners, and he destroyed their altars, and he burned the statues of their gods with fire. And he seized the spoils of the cities, and he returned to the land of Judah. Sirach 13-15. Whoever touches pitch will be contaminated by it, and whoever associates with the arrogant will be clothed by arrogance. Whoever associates with those more honorable than himself sets a burden on himself. And so, you should have no fellowship with someone who is wealthier than you. What will the cooking pot have in common with the earthen vessel? And when they collide with one another, one will be broken. The rich man has suffered no injustice, and yet he fumes. But the poor man, though he has been wounded, will remain silent. If you are generous, he will take you up, and when you have nothing, he will cast you aside. If you possess, he will feast with you, and he will empty you, and he will not grieve over you. If he has need of you, he will deceive you, and while smiling, he will give you hope. He will converse with you pleasantly, and he will say, "What is it that you need?" And he will impress you with his foods, until he has drained you 2 or 3 times, and in the very end, he will ridicule you. And afterward, when he sees you, he will abandon you, and he will shake his head at you. Humble yourself before God, and wait for his hands. Be careful. Otherwise, having been seduced into foolishness, you will be humiliated. Do not choose to be low in your wisdom, otherwise, having been brought low, you will be seduced into foolishness. If you are invited by someone who is more powerful than you should decline. Otherwise, he will invite you all the more. You cannot be rude to him, lest you be pushed away. And you cannot stray far from him, lest you be forgotten. You cannot hold a discussion with him as with an equal. You should not trust his many words. For by much talking, he will probe you, and while smiling, he will question you about your secrets. His cruel mind will store up your words, and he will not spare you from affliction, nor from prison. Be cautious of yourself, and attend diligently to what you are hearing. For you are walking toward your own destruction. Yet truly, while listening to these things, consider it as if it were a dream, and you will awaken. Love God for your entire life, and call upon him for your salvation. Every animal loves its own kind, so also every man loves those closest to himself. All flesh will join with whatever is similar to itself, and every man will associate with whomever is similar to himself. If a wolf would at any time have fellowship with a lamb, so also would a sinner have fellowship with the just. What fellowship does a holy man have with a dog? Or what portion do the wealthy have with the poor? In the desert, the wild donkey is the prey of the lion. So also are the poor the pasture of the rich. And just as humility is an abomination to the arrogant, so also does the rich man abhor the poor man. When a wealthy man has been shaken, he is strengthened by his friends. But when a lowly man has fallen, he is expelled even by those who know him well. When a rich man has been deceived, many will help him recover. He has spoken arrogantly, and yet they justify him. When a poor man has been deceived, in addition he is rebuked. He has spoken with understanding, and no place is given to him. The rich man has spoken, and all remain silent, and they repeat his words, even to the clouds. The poor man has spoken, and they say, "Who is this?" And if he stumbles, they will overthrow him. Substance is good for him who has no sin on his conscience. And poverty is called very wicked by the mouth of the impious. The heart of a man changes his face, either for better or for worse. You will find, with difficulty and much labor, the sign of a good heart and a good face. Blessed is the man who has not slipped because of a word from his mouth, and who has not been stung by grief because of an offense. Happy is he who does not have sadness in his mind, and who has not fallen away from his hope. Substance is senseless for a greedy and stingy man. And what would a spiteful man do with gold? Whoever acquires unjustly, according to his own mind, gathers for others. For another will spend his goods lavishly. Whoever is wicked to himself, to whom will he be good? For he will not take enjoyment in his own goods. Whoever has ill will toward himself, nothing is more worthless than he is. But such is the reward of his wickedness. And if he does good, he does it ignorantly and unwillingly. And in the very end, he realizes his own malice. The eye of the spiteful man is wicked, and he averts his face and despises his own soul. The eye of the greedy man is insatiable in his portion of iniquity. He will not be satisfied until he has consumed his own soul, withering it away. An evil eye is directed at evil things. And he will not be satisfied by bread, instead, he will be needy and grieving at his own table. Son, if you have anything, do good to yourself, and offer worthy oblations to God. Remember that death has not been delayed, and that the covenant of the grave has been revealed to you. For the covenant of this world will pass away in death. Do good to your friend before you die. And according to your ability, extend your hand and give to the poor. Do not cheat yourself out of a good day, and do not let the smallest good gift pass you by. Should you not leave it to others to divide your sorrows and labors by lot? Give, and receive, and justify your soul. Before your passing, accomplish justice. For in death, there is no food to be found. All flesh grows old like the grass, and like the foliage that springs forth from a green tree. Some spring up, and others fall away. Such is the generation of flesh and blood. One is finished, and another is born. Every corruptible work will fail in the end, and its worker will go with it. But every excellent work will be justified, and whoever worked it will be honored by it. Blessed is the man who will abide in wisdom, and who will meditate on her righteousness, and who, in his mind, will consider the circumspection of God. He considers her ways in his heart, and he finds understanding in her secrets. He goes after her like an investigator, and he is constant in her ways. He gazes through her windows, and he listens at her door. He rests next to her house, and fastening a peg in her walls, he sets up his cottage by her hands. And so, good things will find rest in his cottage as time passes. He will station his sons under her covering, and he will abide under her branches. He will be protected by her covering from the heat, and he will rest in her glory. Whoever fears God will do good, and whoever holds to justice will obtain it. And like an honorable mother, she will meet him, and like a virgin bride, she will receive him. She will feed him with the bread of life and understanding, and she will give him to drink from the water of salvific wisdom. And she will be confirmed in him, and he will not waver. And she will hold to him, and he will not be confounded. And she will exalt him, along with those closest to him. And in the midst of the church, she will open his mouth, and she will fill him with the spirit of wisdom and understanding, and she will clothe him with a robe of glory. She will store up in him a treasure of rejoicing and exultation, and she will cause him to inherit an everlasting name. But foolish men will not take hold of her. And though understanding men will meet her, foolish men will not catch sight of her. For she is far from arrogance and deceit. Lying men will be wary of her. But men who speak the truth will be found with her, and they will have success, even when examined by God. Praise is not beautiful in the mouth of a sinner. For wisdom was sent from God. And praise will stand before the wisdom of God, and praise will abound in the mouths of the faithful, and the sovereign Lord will give praise to wisdom. You should not say, "It is because of God that wisdom is absent." For you should not do what he detests. You should not say, "He has led me astray." For the impious are of no use to him. The Lord hates all abominable error, and those who fear him will not love such things. God established man from the beginning, and he left him in the hand of his own counsel. He added his commandments and precepts. If you choose to keep the commandments, and if, having chosen them, you fulfill them with perpetual fidelity, they will preserve you. He has set water and fire before you. Extend your hand to whichever one you would choose. Before man is life and death, good and evil. Whichever one he chooses will be given to him. For the wisdom of God is manifold. And he is strong in power, seeing all things without ceasing. The eyes of the Lord are upon those who fear him, and he knows each one of the works of man. He has commanded no one to act impiously, and he has given no one permission to sin. For he does not desire a multitude of unfaithful and useless sons. Proverbs 22 verses 13 through 16. The lazy one says, "There is a lion outside. I might be slain in the midst of the streets." The mouth of a foreign woman is a deep pit. The Lord was angry with him who will fall into it. Foolishness has been bound to the heart of a child, and a rod of discipline shall cause it to flee. Whoever slanders the poor, so as to augment his own riches, will give it away to one who is richer, and will be in need.